Well, speaking of political ideology, too much of it has infected water policy and having the effect, obviously, just bunging a handbrake on sensible water retention and water harvesting policy in this, the driest inhabited continent on Earth. Of course, today marks a decade since the evacuation of the town of Theodore, west of Bundaberg there. Of course, big floods on this day exactly 10 years ago. It's raining again in copious amounts in Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria. We're in the La Nina phase, and yet no new dams. It seems very little in the way of water infrastructure. There's always promises, there's visions/hallucinations. Sometimes there's money, but not much is done.
Well, if I hear a politician these days, regardless of their political party, talking about building dams, I sort of just shake my head because I know it's not going to happen.
No.
It doesn't happen, Michael, and for our viewers' information, it doesn't happen because of the Federal Environmental Act. And that particular piece of legislation nominates all sorts of threatened species or supposedly threatened species. And in any of these environments, you'll always find something. Some rare frog, a lungfish, and that's why, for example, when Brisbane was running out of water over 10 years ago, Peter Garrett in the Rudd government actually stopped a dam being built that the Labor Party wanted to build up here, and that was to provide drinking water, putting aside issues for high-value agriculture. So my message this evening is if politicians want to see dams, if they're fair dinkum about that, then they need to change the federal environmental law to actually say there needs to be balance. There needs to be, yes, there are detrimental outcomes potentially to the environment, but sometimes that is absolutely outweighed by fantastic positives, whether it be job creation, production of food, vital drinking water. I mean, look at the battle that's going on for your city of Sydney at the moment over the raising of Warragamba Dam, a critical project to provide drinking water and flood mitigation for people who live downstream on the Nepean and Hawkesbury River systems. I mean,
but you're quite right, but the problem is that we have a pressing need for this. We are the driest inhabited continent on Earth. Everyone, I think, appreciates that. We're pouring, up until very recently, hundreds of thousands of extra people into the country every year, and yet we're not keeping up with infrastructure, be it road, rail or water. Well, I suppose you can survive without terrific roads. You can't survive without water. You don't want to get to day zero,
absolutely,
like they got to very closely with Cape Town. And the big mantra with COVID, of course, as you know, Campbell, has been we've got to be more self-reliant. We've got to really double down on sovereignty as we go forward into 2021. Well, you can't be any of that if you don't have water.
Look, this is, of all the infrastructure issues, in my view, one of the most critical because we have got a much larger population these days than, say, we had from 25 or 30 years ago, which is about when we stopped building new dams.
Yeah.
And we've just allowed the population to grow. We've had some desalination plants, which are very expensive to run and obviously use a lot of electricity, which runs into another issue, doesn't it, Michael? So,
yes,
we do need politicians to get it, that we do need to see new water infrastructure for drinking water, but also for high-value agriculture to create great food that we can export to the world, by the way, of course.
And when we grow up, we need to find the people to pick it. That's another matter.